Circuit of the Americas, located just outside of the Texas state capital, has been hosting world-class motorsports since it opened its doors in October of 2012. The circuit has been a fixture of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS calendar since 2013, and now returns to the schedule after a year away. This twisting up-and-down track packs a dizzying array of 20 corners into just under 3.5 miles of tarmac and poses an immense challenge for all 17 GT3 cars entered here this weekend. Hello and welcome to Circuit of the Americas. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside and Amanda Busick is in the pits. Overcast skies, but the rain has dissipated. We had some here overnight, 69 degrees Fahrenheit the conditions here, and a nice breeze, as you can see, with the Lone Star flag of Texas fluttering above this immense circuit here near the state capitol, the famed tower that overlooks the Circuit of the Americas. Great to be back after a year away, and the drivers certainly anxious to get on track to go qualifying here in just a matter of moments. And Calvin, this is certainly a track that packs a lot of challenge into 3.5 miles, as you see the track conditions right there.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the big key this morning, is the changing of those track conditions. We had a couple of very toasty days, up around 90 degrees ambient yesterday, and the track kind of got away from all of the drivers and teams late yesterday afternoon. So you got to do a little bit of a reset. The conditions are going to be much better this morning. Track got a little bit of a wash. It wasn't a deluge last night, but certainly some rain will take a little bit of that rubber away. And the track is drying rapidly. There was a GTA qualifying session a few moments ago, and times were some 10 seconds plus off. So I think the racing surface should be good by the time we dig into this two-session format here. But certainly those curbs, if there's any dampness on those, and if you're fully loaded going through some of these high-speed corners, you certainly are going to have to be wary of that, I would think.
Calvin alluded to it. 2 qualifying sessions, each 15 minutes in length. The first sets the grid for race 1 of the weekend. The second sets the grid for race 2 of the weekend, which will be coming up later on tomorrow, here in just a little while. And so now, I believe down on the grid, our Amanda Busick is standing by to speak with one of the front runners in the championship.
Well, you guys were talking about the water and the curbing, and that is almost exactly the conversation that Stephen Mackler and I were just having down here on the track conditions of what could possibly be out there. I was talking to Eric Figueres yesterday, and he talked about the commitment that this place requires out of drivers. What is the load that drivers are carrying at being successful here at COTA?
Well, you just brought up a good point. You know, the commitment, the entry speed commitment here is key, and we'll get a track that's still damp a little, so it's going to be quite tricky for qualifying. We're not sure about the curbing. We're using a lot of the curbing here. You hear the word track limits, or the words track limits, so we're trying to use as much as we can. But, you know, Eric has been doing well this weekend. The car has got better every single session. We should be close to him maybe getting another pole position here. We may keep him a little longer and wait and let some cars dry the track up first. But, yeah, it's a big commitment around here, and it's a lot bumpier than I've been around here in a GT4 car before, so lots of fun.
Eric has put it on the pole in every stint that he's qualified for this season. He said that they're quite surprised at where you guys in the championship so far this season. Would you say the same?
Yes and no. I mean, you know, we came off such a strong season last year. Between the two of us and learning this new car, especially, you know, RS1 learning a new car, we've came a long way. There's still more to go. But I'm not surprised. I knew he would pick it up as quick as he did. We have some more speed to find. You know, he's been qualifying pole, but I've been qualifying 10th, 11th, or 12th. So as obviously I'm out with a you know, pretty solid group of drivers. I think we're closer this weekend, but I'll let you know in 25 minutes.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Stephen Mackler and Eric Figueres, the only tandem to win multiple races in the pro class so far here in 2023. Calvin, you see the cars start to make their way out onto the track here. And let's talk about this track. As mentioned, just a little under 3.5 miles, 20 turns in length, and lots of different corners. A real challenge for driver and engineer alike.
Yeah, you can see in the backdrop there's a massive climb, almost 100 feet from the start-finish stripe up to the braking point for turn 1, and that just means that braking zone is very, very short. It's very wide, so certainly on the opening lap, at least you're going to look for a lot of action up there into turn 1. It remains a good overtaking opportunity. for the race itself. And then as you dive off a turn one, you're then hitting those high-speed S's, and that's where that downforce comes into play that Stephen Mackler was alluding to. When you jump up from a GT4 car to a GT3, that Eric Filgueras is now behind the wheel of that 28. It's a big stepping stone for him, and I spoke to him yesterday, Eric Filgueras, and he wasn't that happy and confident with that Porsche going through those S's where you really need to eat up a lot of those curbs as we're looking at right there. There's the number 9 car, Ziad Gandor. Spoke to that team yesterday, and they said this Mercedes platform was really suiting Ziad. It's got a big comfort factor with that car. It's very compliant. It's not as edgy as maybe some of the other cars he's driven before. So that'll give him confidence. We see Charlie Luck having a quick early spin here on relatively cold tires. So maybe got caught out by some of that dampness we spoke about.
Well, that's what we talked about, right? The conditions today, especially with that dampness, but the temperature as well, totally different than what we've seen in testing and in practice yesterday. And the teams will have had to reset overnight.
They will. So, you know, we spoke to Jan Halen this morning on the way into the track, and he said, you know, with the length of the prep lap, it's a big lap here, right? So you got 3.5 miles almost to work with to get the tires prepped to come in when they're still at their sweetness of these Pirellis when they're early on in the run. But you got to counter that with the track maybe improving. So I think when we get to the pro session in session 2, they'll be setting those laps very early. But I think for these AM drivers who may be on board right now in the Pro-Am category, they may still be looking at setting their times a bit deeper into this session.
Ziad Gandor, who are on board with he and Daniel Morad, their best finish of the season, second in race 2 at Sonoma. This first lap, this out lap, very important to get the car prepared because we expect the fastest laps in this qualifying session to be the first 1 or 2 laps turned in anger.
Yeah, I think so if the track is dry, but if the track improves, then obviously that'll change that dynamic a little bit. But there's 3 of the drivers out there who have seen track action this morning. George Kurtz, Adam Adelson, and Anthony Bartone ran in the GTA qualifying session about half an hour ago, so they'll have a little bit of track knowledge and may have a leg up on some of their competitors here for this session.
We heard from Stephen McAleer. He said the plan was for Eric Filgueras to wait to let the track start to come into shape and then go out and attempt the qualifying. We saw the RS1 Porsche in the pits there. It's a bit of a gamble, though, because if this session were to be interrupted by a yellow flag, you might not have a chance to go out except a representative lap time.
Yeah, it's a risk, and you know, to be honest with you, I'm not sure it's the right risk for that team. They have the championship lead based on 2 poles and victories from those pole positions that Eric has set. So he's one of the strongest AM drivers in this class right now. So he's able to get that track position and hang on to, as Stephen alluded to, and the pros are out there who've been qualifying around 10th. So this is their opportunity. So I don't know if they need to gamble. Do you know what I mean? If you just go with what's been working so far. So we'll have to wait and see. As you said, if there's a red flag, suddenly that can backfire on you a little bit.
This has been the quick car so far in the session. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen, Manny Franco with the 2 purple slashes next to his name. That means each of the first 2 sectors he has been the fastest man through here, still very early in the going. But what an impressive driver he's been. Yeah, that's going to cost him some time. Still very new to GT3 racing, slight error, and that might, again, depending on the track conditions, that might cost him his best chance at a fast lap.
Oh, you could see there as he went into 15, he lost the rear end of the car there a little bit, and also coming off, you could actually see a lot of dampness on this racetrack. So we're many laps away from this track being in perfect condition. So that's really going to mean that these lap times could happen late in the going here. Track limits, you've got to have some part of a tire touching the painted curbing as you're coming off these corners, particularly through 19 and 20. You can almost be in a different zip code through there. But you got to be touching that red and white curbing in some manner.
Franco draws first blood. His benchmark time, 2:07.250. Torres is on a decent lap. Bartone as well, the impressive rookie there. Torres just a little bit off the pace. Adelson jumps up to second, but a ways off. Even with that miscue, Calvin, Franco's lap time has him currently, provisionally, and again, very early on, in possession of the provisional pole.
Well, the other key is keeping that energy in the tires. The tires come out of the ovens or out of the blankets and straight on the car, so they're going to give you grip immediately. But if you cruise around too much, you're going to lose that tire temperature. There you can see him really working those track limits through the S's there. Key is compliancy over the curbs through the high-speed S's. Some cars can deal with it. Some cars just get super nervous and edgy.
Couple of podium finishes this season for Franco and Alessandro Balzan, his co-driver for Conquest Racing. Sonoma Race 2, NOLA Race 1. They were runners-up, very nearly at the win there in Sonoma Race 2 when that got away from him late in the race. Great move from Ashton Harrison to steal that away. Adam Adelson catching some traffic, and this could be costly here. He had a purple opening sector, and now he's stuck behind Torres.
Yeah, well, he's going to get a good draft here going down the back straightaway, so I'd imagine he'll be able to draft by him and certainly try and outbrake him into turn 12. If he lost any of his momentum through turn 11. Here he comes down the middle of the road. You've got to be careful too, because the racing line will be drying a little bit quicker. He's in there pretty deep. Yeah, that looked a bit optimistic to me.
That will cost both drivers a chance at a good lap here. Kurtz just goes to P2. Let's take a look at this again, Calvin.
Yeah, he's just in the middle of the road. You can see this. The track's not very dry there. He's into the ABS, I'd imagine, at that point, because he doesn't really lock up the wheels. He just washes out wide. So, again, you just got to be a little more, you know, careful with that move, a little softer with the brake application, and just feed down at the inside. Don't just throw it down the inside.
Ashton Harrison leaving the pits for Racer's Edge. That's another team that decided to sit and wait for Franco. That last lap was his best, a 2:06.958, so shaved off a couple more tenths of a second. Currently, provisionally on the pole in the Pro Class and overall. George Kurtz would be the Pro-Am pole sitter. He sits second overall at this stage, but 1.2 seconds adrift.
Yeah, to put that time in perspective, fastest lap yesterday is 2:03.956, so they're about 3 seconds off a lap that Colin Brown put together yesterday in the early morning session, the cooler session of the day.
This is the hometown team, S's Racing, with Mercedes-Benz of Austin on the doors of that car. It's Will Hardiman driving, has the purple middle sector at this point, still trending to be a couple tenths off of that time from Franco just a few moments ago.
And he's pushing. You can see a little twitchy through 19. You could hear the tires screaming a little bit at him.
Gave up some time there in Sector 3, 2:07.668. That has him a ways off, but in second. Meanwhile, Franco continues to find some speed, going 3 tenths quicker through Sector 1 than the previous best.
Yeah, but Hardiman, that puts him on the Pro-Am pole, so Franco's in the Pro class and first overall right now as we focus back in on him. Not a great middle sector. Dynamite first sector, so a little mistake. When you start to push, you just get that little slide and you're just not back to power, and that's where the time goes away from you. This is where he had a moment earlier. Very different line there. Doesn't use the outer extremities there in terms of the turning point. Keeps it a little bit safe, a little bit cleaner.
I think if we took a look at the optimum lap time, combining the best sectors for Franco throughout what we've seen so far, he'd have a massive lap. He's yet to put all 3 together.
And that's the key, and the team will be giving you that information, and there's still plenty of time on the board. The racetrack is going to continue to get better, even though you're putting more and more miles on these tires. And it's all about just executing and trying to click 3 sectors together and getting that magic lap.
Did have a great third sector, but gave up too much in the middle, so he did not improve. 2:07.135 that last time around. Currently best time set by Franco on the previous lap, 2:06.958. George Kurtz has reclaimed the Pro-Am pole ahead of Hardiman by just a couple of tenths. Gondor again coming through. Right now he's 10th overall. And now we check in on the Am class car driven by, oh, I'm sorry, that is actually Jeff Burton that we're looking at here. And Jeff a little bit further down. He's in 7th, but has a great middle sector. How about that?
Very good. This is a team that is a little bit on the rebound. They've been struggling over the last season or two, DXDT, but they had a really strong NOLA, and they're looking to keep that momentum moving forward.
Jeff Burton, 2:07.856, currently 7th in the overall order. Kurtz was on the Pro-Am pole just a few moments ago. He has been displaced. It's now Adelson who holds that spot, and Adelson just put in a purple first sector. Hardiman 2nd in Pro-Am. Kurtz right now would be 3rd in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, Kurtz and Colin Brown had a really solid weekend at NOLA. They now lead the Pro-Am championship by 4 points over Adelson. It's going to be a fascinating championship to see all of these drivers and teams stack up. We've got a lot of new entries with Adelson and Ski, and they've certainly made an impression very early on in this 2023 season.
Oh, this lap was trending the right way. Did he get a little too wide, though? Meanwhile, Hull just went to the top of the running order. by 0.08 of a second. Right now, provisionally on the pole position. How about this? George Kurtz to the top.
Yeah, it's a nice lap, and the car's going to keep coming to him. These tire temperatures are going to be right in their sweet spot right now. Racetrack is getting better by the lap. The line is drying out even more.
That lap from Kurtz was monstrous. Over 4/10 clear of the next best lap we've seen so far. Adelson was on pace to supplant that, but had to slip up there in the middle sector. He gave up nearly 7/10.
Been the revelation of this season, making the move from GT4 cars last year. He and Alex Skias visited victory lane a few times, but their transition up to the big boy league has been fantastic.
Had pole position in class in his Fanatec GT debut at Sonoma Race 1. They've been on the podium 3 out of the 4 races so far this season. Let's check the lap time. 2:06.894, good enough for P5.
They'll be wanting a little bit more, I feel. Bartone's put a nice lap together there. You look at the timing board there. He's up to P3, the sole M class entry, but they're looking for overall results as well.
Here comes Hardiman out of the final corner. We'll check his time and jumps to third, second in Pro-Am. This is the best showing we've seen from this team in qualifying yet this season. A lot of experience on their engineering staff, not necessarily though at the GT3 level.
Appropriately got the partnership with Mercedes-Benz of Austin, so I'm sure they got a lot of support here this weekend, their local track.
Back to George Kurtz, currently in the third spot, quickest though in Pro-Am.
That's the key, and you think about track limits there, I believe you can go all the way out to that second white line, so the green painted area plus the white line, you got to have at least a tire touching the second of the white lines. You look at screen left there.
New personal best, and that gives him a bit of a buffer to Hardiman, who is the next in class. Kurtz right now, along with his co-driver Colin Brown, they are the championship leaders in the very competitive Pro-Am category. Just 4 points is their lead. Still very early in the championship, but a pair of wins and a runner-up finish paired with a 9th place finish in race 1 at NOLA. That's been their results so far this season.
This is a team that's coming off a really solid weekend at NOLA. Nearly had a pair of wins. Billy Oberlin went for a big time on day 1. Just got a little bit wide in turn 1, trying to go for the lead there, but they backed up with a victory on Sunday, and now they are sitting second in the pro points, albeit 9 points behind the 20 RS1 team.
They've been right there, though, all season long. Same for this car, as mentioned. Adelson with a great opening sector was trending the right direction.
This looks good.
Through
this could
sector
be a really
2.
good one.
Let's check the time. 2:06.663. He gave up a bunch in the third sector.
Oh yeah, really poor third sector, unfortunately for him, because he had a good one going here. A lot of teams have said that BMW, just with its ride height, its ability to really straddle a lot of the curbs around there, could give them an advantage. They've had a little bit of a BOP hit since the last round at NOLA, not quite as much power, and a little bit more weight, but nonetheless, looking at the big picture of the championship, they're in pretty good shape right now.
Down to just over 1 minute left in this first qualifying session that sets the grid for race 1 later today. Chandler Hall on a lap that's trending to be fast enough to go to the top. Can he supplant Eric Filgaris? He can, by 19 thousandths.
That was big commitment there, really working on that fine line of track limits, but did a really nice job. Got a little bit shallow to 19. It threw him out wide going in on the approach to 20, but he kept it in bounds, it looked like to me.
Pro class cars 1, 2, and 3. Seth Lucas has done a tremendous job to get up there to the third spot. This, though, is the car that has been on the pole in race 1 of the weekend, each of the 2 race weekends so far. Eric Filgaris, just 2 GT3 qualifying sessions prior to today under his belt. He's been on pole for both of them.
Yeah, he's a real talent. He's done a great job coming off that dominant season last year in GT4 competition. He and Stephen McAleer. But they got a new target to shoot for as Franco goes to the top with a 2:05.5. Different class there. No, so excuse me, all in pro class there.
Checkered flag is out.
This is it. He's got to make it happen.
First sector just 29 thousandths off of Franco's opening sector.
But that's where he really felt he was struggling. That's where he felt that the Porsche could not attack the curbs like a bunch of the other cars. This is a problem. He's got to go offline there. That's going to cost him a little bit. Look at that. He's in on the wrong angle, washes out wide. That is going to cost him big time.
Oh, Eric won't be happy about that. He was on the headlight flashers trying to let Will Hardiman know he was on his way, and you can tell he's backed out of it. He knows that lap was scuppered, and he will do no better than third because Franco is P1 whole right now on the outside of the front row, and all Stephen McAleer can do is laugh it off.
Yeah, that's a shame because there was a potential pole lap right there. He only needed to find just over 2/10 and gone personal best in the first two sectors, even on that shallow angle there.
Justin Wetherill still pushing right now, 17th.
Spoke to Justin yesterday. He said, I feel a lot more confident this weekend. Had a really good, solid practice day. He's run here before in Ferrari Challenge, had a win and a runner-up finish, so he knows the circuit well. And he said his confidence has definitely taken a knock with some of those incidents that he had late last summer, trying to get back into the groove. But DL topped the timesheets late yesterday in free practice too.
That's right. We know the car has pace based on that. It looks like he is not able to improve and will roll off at the back of the grid later on today. Not sure there's anyone else still out on a push lap. Maybe Manny Franco, but he doesn't need to. We'll see. This is just a show off at this point, Calvin. This is the car that's already provisionally on pole.
Yeah. It's all just a good read, and he can be delivering some of that communication back to the team. Not a lot you can do, obviously, between first driver and the second, but he does go a little bit quicker. That's a nice lap that he put together there. So the track is evolving.
2:05.380 and pole position for Conquest Racing and Manny Franco. Phenomenal performance, first pole of the year, and it comes by nearly 4/10 of a second. That is dominant.
Yeah, and I think the timing of that, just being the last driver to really have a crack at it with the track conditions improving, was a great job by he and also the team in terms of setting that up.
Manny burst onto the scene last year at Sebring. Comes from a Ferrari Challenge background, did a little GT4 racing last year too, but made the step to GT3 and was instantly on the pace. Just ran a couple of races, but made sure we'd remember him when he turned up again early this year.
Yeah, and I think the key for that team is what can Alessandro Balzan do in this second session here. Remember at NOLA, Manny went quite well, and then Alessandro struggled in the pro sessions. We'll have to see if he can step up this time.
That has been an interesting dynamic this season. Actually, we heard Stephen McAleer talk about that too. Phil Garris had 2 poles, but McAleer was a little bit further back in all of the sessions that he's qualified for, and what that's made is for some really compelling racing, race 1 to race 2, with grids that are totally mixed up.
Absolutely, because you got potentially faster pro drivers getting on board, but with poor track position because their AM driver didn't get the grid spot that they were looking for.
Crucial session there with Phil Garris debriefing Stephen McAleer. Let's look at highlights, though, from that first qualifying session of the weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Manny Franco came out first. Well, he ended up first as well, but the first one to venture out in interesting conditions here with rain overnight starting to dry. We saw Ziad Gondor also testing the limits early on.
Yeah, it was tricky, and you had to be careful of the painted curbs because you don't know what sort of moisture was being held there if you were really forcing it. See the driver just trying to get some tire temperature, get the tires prepped for a flyer. Adelson was on it, certainly. This is a great effort by the local team here.
Will Hardiman, his best qualifying showing to date. 4S is racing. They've got one more race scheduled here this year in what was always intended to be a partial season campaign. And for Adelson, you might look at this as a what if. He had a lot of individual sectors that were good, just couldn't piece them all together. Yeah,
it seemed like he really struggled through the third sector to nail a lap, and nice job by Chandler Hull. This is a team, Bimmerworld, that really done a really solid job this year. He and the very experienced Bill Auberlin has over 500 starts in BMW machinery now in his career.
In many ways, they're replicating their recipe from last year, consistently on the podium, but now they're starting to add a race win here and there, and that turns them into a championship threat.
It does, with essentially 5 cars running for that pro championship. I mean, if you can get some wins, it's hard for the other teams to get that point delta and catch back up again.
It's remarkable how close that pro championship is. at this stage. It's helped by the fact that there are just 5 cars, but that means if you have a very bad day, it really hurts because it's difficult to make any kind of headway.
Exactly. So here we go. Pros will be on board the Pro-Am entries now, and this track should be a little bit better. We'll have to wait and see if anyone can get down and dip into the 3s. I think certainly 4s is going to be on the cards immediately here. See if anyone can get into the 3s and below.
And we saw Phil Garris leaning in to give some information over to Stephen McAleer before he goes out in that car. How important is it for driver 1 to convey what the track conditions are so that these pros can be on it right away?
I think it's especially important when you got a track in the condition it was to start this qualifying run here today. So I think it's very important where to really the car is still sketchy, it's not quite dry in a certain area, just so you don't end up in the fence. But ultimately it's down to the driver to go out there and feel it for himself. The track will evolve. Even in 5-minute break, it'll be a little bit stronger.
Manny Franco is the fastest of the day so far. We'll start on pole later on today for race 1 of the weekend for Fanatec GT, and Amanda has found him.
And Ryan, he picks up that Rova Motor Oil pole position here at what is now his home track. And Manny, I was talking to you kicking off the weekend and just being at COTA. The guys in the booth were talking about the track evolution we've seen this morning. You were pushing every lap there to get this pole position. How did the track come to you this morning?
Well, over time, of course, the track gets better, just drying out and whatnot. For me, it came to me the moment that I go over them, the moment I test them, the moment I try to see if there's any grip. I had a couple moments in certain spots that cost me a couple tenths there, but at the end, that push lap, I just focused on taking it a little bit easier and trying to string it all together. So.
Thank you, Manny.
Yeah, of course, thank you.
Big smile at his face as we're accustomed to seeing Manny Franco. This was the car that he was piloting in Q1. Now it is the savvy veteran Alessandro Balzan behind the wheel.
Yeah, 3-time GT champion here in North America over the years, so a ton of experience, knows this car well. And it's a really solid group there, led by Eric Bachelat at Conquest Racing, and Balzan, as we know, can get the job done. He's a great racer, he keeps it clean, but he's always there picking up the big points, and they look to try and capitalize on the pace of this Ferrari here for both sessions, you'd have to think.
2 runner-up finishes, their best results of the season so far, but very close to a win in race 2 at Sonoma. Came down to a last lap pass, essentially, that settled that race. And they've had the pace, that's for sure, especially what Manny has been able to do relative to the other silver-rated drivers in those pro lineups.
Yeah, I think track position is certainly very strong. We're seeing that from the results. How you start the race is a big factor in terms of getting onto that podium and grabbing those wins. But Alessandro, he'll really want to try and correct the qualifying issues that he had in the last round of the championship and get this 21 car towards the pointy end of the field here.
Ran in the gold class in GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup last year, did Alessandro Balzan. Finished 6th in that championship. Look in on the American vet, Bill Oberlin. So associated with the BMW brand, it's hard to remember a time before he was driving a BMW.
Well, you're not old enough, so
that might be true.
Spoke to Bill yesterday late in the day after the second qualifying practice session, and he said they went in a totally different direction with the car, starting to feel some benefits from that, but he said it's going to be a rough road. He said, I think there's cars that are stronger here this weekend, but again, it's all about building that foundation of points. So if you can't win, just try and pick up as many points as you can. If it's a podium, great. Even if it's 4th out of the 5-car pro field, you just got to maximize what you have underneath you for a particular race weekend.
Quickest here in the early stages of Q2 is Bill Oberlin, as you can see up at the top. Checking in here on Trenton Estep, who is in the MDK Motorsports car. Started earlier by Seth Lucas, and he goes to the top of the leaderboard. That's impressive.
Now, what I would say in terms of strategy compared to the first session is that with the pros, they're going to be able to lean on these cars and extract the maximum from them. So someone like a Jan Halen or a Colin Brown, they may elect to go deep into this session, roll the dice a little bit and get the benefit of the track drying out and then really utilizing those Pirelli tires when they're at their maximum grip in the first lap or 2.
This young man is a dynamo in qualifying. Valentin Haseclo, VHC as we like to call him. Started on pole for his race 2 of the weekend at NOLA Motorsports Park. The last time out. Right now just got bumped down to second in that TRG Aston. It's balls on to the top. Fastest in Pro. Haseklo currently the quickest of the Pro-Am runners. Another Pro-Am car right here with the Texan Colin Brown.
Yeah, just doing a prep lap here, just trying to get everything set up.
Don't know if it was intended to be a prep lap,
Yeah,
though.
it looks like he slowed down now, so I think he may be reading some traffic up ahead, but immediately these time, Dial to the top in the Ferrari, close to Balzan. So it's a Ferrari 1-2 right now, about half a second quicker than what Manny Franco ran in that first qualifying session. So the track's evolving, and obviously we've got pros on board as well.
We've been waiting for that Ferrari 296 to really come to life here this year. It's had some good runs at times, but it looks like this might be the track to see the prancing horse really start to shine.
Yeah, this may be the guy that got to beat, though. Fastest time yesterday. Team is ticking all of the boxes. And it just seems like this crowd strike with Riley has really found the sweet spot of this Mercedes. This will be the go lap.
Colin, of course, a native Texan, now lives in North Carolina. Want to show well here on home soil. Didn't see much out of Ashton Harrison, it must be said, in qualifying 1.
Yeah, he seemed to be struggling a bit with that Racer's Edge Acura. I saw Mario Farnbacher in deep conversation with the Acura people last night in terms of trying to unlock some speed out of that machine here.
Got the clock on Haseklo once again. He's putting up a nice lap at this stage. Corey Lewis, the Pennsylvanian, goes to the top in the car he shares with Jeff Burton. Here comes Haseklo, trending the right direction. How about the third sector? Oh, it's good enough, but only by 16 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, it's going to take a 2:03, I think, to grab the top spot here. We've still got 7 minutes to go if it stays green, of course.
Pro-Am cars 1 and 2. Estep the quickest of the Pro class runners. Then Dial. Balzan now jumps to third. And the pole, the provisional pole in Pro. Here comes Ryan Dial, though. Purple second sector through the final corner to the timing line and to the top.
2:03.751. What does Colin Brown have? What can he respond with? Spent a lot of time under the same awning a couple of years ago with that DXDT squad. Dial and Brown did. I'm not sure what the relationship is exactly. I think it was frosty at times. Let's see who can get the upper hand here.
First 2 sectors. He's quick enough to grab the pole by over 3/10. Can he keep it running? This long duration double apex right-hander into this quick switch back to the left. Sets you up for that final hairpin to the left. Back onto the front straightaway.
Not using as much as the track there on the track out of turn 19. Let's see how it stacks up against Dial.
Colin Brown, what's the time? It is good enough for pole, and it is a 2:03, 2:03.6.
600s quicker. Mackler up to third. He's only a couple of tenths off, yeah.
Here is VHC, young Frenchman, Aston Martin factory driver with his co-driver Derek DeBoer sporting the cowboy hat there in the center of the shot. Derek was all smiles yesterday. And why not? He's had a fast race car. He and young Valentin have really getting along.
Whoa, he's really pushing there. You can hear him up changing there through that carousel turn, really on the limit. Can he finish it off? Can he get the power down off that final corner?
First time here at Circuit of the Americas for VHC, and it's a pretty good lap. 4th overall, 3rd in class. Still a little bit of time to find, though.
So many people in with a shout here. Still 5.5 minutes to go. Track is probably still evolving, but then you get into the tire performance a little bit as you get into lap 3, 4, 5. It starts to go in the wrong direction for you.
Morad to P2 by 54 thousandths. Dial is P3, only 61 thousandths off pole. Skier, a bit surprising to see him down in 16th, but he's trending to have a pretty good lap in hand.
Deep into the TC there, coming off where he really barked at that loud pedal and asked for a lot there.
P7 for Elliott Skier. The top 11 covered by less than 1 second with 5 minutes left to go here in Q2.
Purple first sector for Colin Brown. not his best in Sector 2. Was that a little mistake, or is the performance of the car going in the wrong direction? Again, he doesn't use as much track as Ryan Dial did.
It's not that too far off, though, of his previous best through there, but Sector 3 went away from him. Did not improve. Still provisionally the pole sitter, though. 4.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think he realized that he maybe made a little mistake in the second sector, just gave up the lap, tried to protect those tires a little bit, but looks like he's struggling for grip there, power down off of turn 1.
Riding on board with Super Mario. Mario Farnbacher with the Racer's Edge Acura. Only 14th.
Yeah, just a head scratcher here this weekend. Just don't seem to be able to unlock the speed out of this NSX.
Did find a little there, did get in the 203s, in fact. That's good enough to get to 6th and 2nd of the Pro Class cars.
Yeah, that's a big jump up, little lock up there. Just as you turn in, you kind of lean the car to the right, gets a little bit light on that left front as you're asking it to turn in, so even with the ABS, you can still puff the tire a little bit.
This is Ryan Dial, who was quickest in practice 2 yesterday. Triarsi Competizione is the team. Long-time Ferrari Challenge entrance based in Orlando.
Yeah, he really floats speed through 19. I think he's the most committed through 19.
Dial currently 3rd. Does he improve? Yes, enough to get up to 2nd. So right now would be on the outside of the front row. 51 thousandths of a second off of pole. The difference between 2nd and 3rd right now is a mere 3 thousandths of a second.
Does anyone have enough life left in their tires as the track is going to be at its best right now with a couple of minutes to go?
Here's Brian Sellers. This car was involved in a couple of incidents in practice yesterday. Good work by the DXDT crew to get things turned around. Brian Sellers, 7th.
Yeah, he's under the 204 bracket, but he's 7th. That's how tight it is right now.
Unbelievably tight. Now it's down to the top 14 covered by 1 second, Calvin.
Incredible.
And that's around a 3.4 mile track.
Yeah, they've really got the balance of performance and the parity really good here this weekend.
Asa Klo currently 6th, had a personal best opening sector, but gave up a half a second in sector 2.
I think he needs to bail on this lap and see if he can put together a last lap flyer here.
That'll be just enough time to do that. Morad in 4th. Right now, doesn't look like he's on a lap that would see him jump up to the front row. Corey Lewis has personal bests in sectors 1 and 2. That might be one to keep an eye on, and there he crossed the line. He did improve, but not in terms of position, just a personal best lap time as we watch Hasse Klo.
The bottom of the heap there, or towards the bottom, 14th, 15th for Oberlin and Edwards, so BMW is certainly struggling here in qualifying trim at least.
Here comes the Frenchman through the final corner, 204.793, over a second off of Brown's provisional pole time.
Close to his personal best, but I'm not sure if it's enough to move him anywhere.
Morad does not improve as you look at Gregory Romanelli, team owner, Ziad Gondor, co-driver on the left.
He's super impressed with young Daniel. As I said, he's a super cool dude, really knows the setup on the cars, great to work with. We've seen him over the years. I think it was 2017 when he burst on the scene with CRP, when he beat Bleekemolen, who was recognized as the benchmark back then, and took that victory at VIR. That really put him in the spotlight.
No question. Mercedes-AMG factory expert driver is Daniel Morad. That's the title. Does a lot of esports and sim work for Mercedes, but when they plug him into the real-world car, he is very quick, as evidenced by his 4th place here in qualifying.
Great commitment there, realized that there was not a faster lap. And he has the fastest time right now.
I don't see anyone improving at this stage. I think we got to the point where the track has dried up, and now the tire wear is starting to factor in. A lot of curb there from Sellers, and those apex curbs through the S's are violent if you hit them the wrong way.
Yeah, they're kind of ramped up, so some you can attack, some you can't. You just got to be careful, and you can really damage the underside of the car, the splitter and the floor. Sellers is on it. He's going for it. I'm not sure if there's enough speed left in these tires right now late in the session.
One of the only drivers left on a true flyer here. He's got to put a little bit together because that lap that we're talking about.
Nice and tidy through turn 11. Got the power down well.
Get his sector 2 time here in just a second. That should give us some sense about whether or not he has a chance to improve here. Brian Sellers from Ohio, the driver, DXDT Racing, the team. Does not improve on his personal best through sector 2, nor did he in sector 1.
Sector 1 takes you up through turn 1 and down to about turn 4 in the S's, and sector 2 finishes off just before you get to the brake pedal for turn 12.
It's the sound of flat 6 in the Porsche, Stephen McAleer. This will be his best qualifying result of the season, regardless of what happens on this lap. And he did have a personal best opening sector. He doesn't need much to jump up a spot. He's only a few thousandths of a second. In fact, he is even with Dial right now in terms of the second best time of the day, to the thousandth. They are dead even.
This is where the experience comes in, just knowing how much tire you got left underneath you, how aggressive you get back to power without loosening up that rear end on the exit of some of these corners.
Is he still on it?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
No. You must have been seeing something on the predictive.
So it looks like Colin Brown will take the Rover Pole Award for race number 2 with the best lap of 2:03.690. But get this, Ryan Dial and Stephen McAleer turned in identical 2:03.741 second laps. Dial set it first, so he'll get that second spot. He'll have the outside of the front row. Stephen McAleer claims the Pro Class pole, however, and will start third. But it will be this car to lead the field to green for race 2 of the weekend. Colin Brown able to eke it out by 51 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be the man to beat just based on what we saw here this weekend so far, and certainly coming off a really strong performance at NOLA. But great to see this Ferrari back towards the top. Nice solid run there for Ryan, so he'll be stoked about that. Looking at his old teammate alongside him in a different car as well for the start of this race. And for RS1, Stephen McAleer third. Filgueras qualified well. Really solid. Not the pole positions they've been seeing, but I think collectively on balance for race 1 and 2, their strongest weekend so far.
And what's remarkable about that is if you had asked them yesterday, they were not confident at all
Well,
about
that's
their
the
chances.
key about having a great group around you, Ryan. You can't panic. You still got another day to go. You got work to do overnight, and just keep tweaking on it and see if you can find those last few hundredths and tenths.
Results from qualifying 2 that sets the grid for race number 2 of the weekend. That'll be tomorrow. Colin Brown, George Kurtz on the Rover pole. Great effort by the CrowdStrike by Riley team. And Ryan Dial and Justin Wetherill, best qualifying result for them of the season, and they needed a little boost. Their best finish this season is just a 7th.
Yeah, they really needed to turn their season around. I think it's great that, Wetherill didn't qualify great, but I think he's confident at this racetrack. So I think Ryan will put him in a great track position for the race 2 tomorrow here.
When we say this field is competitive, we are not kidding. It is less than 1 second from 1st to 14th. Bill Oberlin down in 14th overall. 0.985 seconds off a pole. That is remarkable parity throughout this field, especially around a track this long. So, really remarkable stuff. Let's hear, though, from the co-driver of the Race 2 pole-winning car. It is Amanda standing by with George Kurtz.
And George, Ryan was just talking about there were 14 drivers within a second of each other in qualifying 2, and your driver was at the top of it. But how does that relate to the competition and parity we see on race day?
I mean, it's incredibly close. You think about all the different cars and drivers to be within a second. I mean, I think it gives you an idea how competitive the series is. What a great job they've done in making all the cars equal. And, you know, we're lucky the CrowdStrike Riley guys gave us a great car, and Colin did a great job putting it on pole.
When you look at the Pro-Am Championship, you guys are leading it by 4 points. We're talking about the competition on track, but just talk about the competition of the season that's at hand and the races left and the races here.
Well, we just got to take it race by race. The competition is really fierce. I mean, anyone up and down the grid can win at any time. So there's no layups here. So I think, you know, our goal is just knock out podiums and just do the best we can race by race. And, you know, we'll see where it all shakes out at the end of the season.
I was told I get to have another question with you, so my mind's going to go straight to an event that's about a month away now, the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. The countdown to that, George, how excited are you for it?
Well, we're really excited. It's been busy. We got a lot of races coming up. Cars already over there, and we're excited because the Riley guys will be embedded within the SPS team, so which is a team that I've used in the past. So we get to take you know, our team over there and see what we can do.
Thank you, George.
Thanks so much.
Very exciting. He's got a couple 24-hour races to look forward to this summer. Right now, though, the Pro-Am points leaders this year, as well as pole for race 2. Let's look at highlights from qualifying. This is another Texan in the field. Trenton Estem now lives in Ohio, but born here in Texas. Coming out early, Valentin Hasek-Klo couldn't quite match his pole from NOLA, but still very quick.
Yeah, Corey Lewis jumped to the top early, and nice solid day for DXDT and Wright Motorsport 2-car entry, the 120. We have Elliott Skier. Had a nice solid run today, but not towards the top.
There's Daniel Morad. He was towards the top. Had a chance, it looked like maybe to make a run for pole. Just a little bit of a miscue in his quick lap. Probably cost him a shot at it, but still a good starting position. And all things considered, Mario Farnbacher salvaged something here, Calvin.
He did. He dug deep and got that car into the 203 range, but it was this Ferrari that was really digging deep for the pole position. Really solid run by Ryan Dale. He'll line up in P2 for Sunday's race.
It'll be a real shot in the arm for the Triarci Competizione team. Best qualifying result of the season, but the pole to this car, CrowdStrike by Riley, and Colin Brown gets it done here today. Well, that'll do it for qualifying. It sets the table nicely, though, for race 1 of the weekend coming up a little later today. We hope you join us for that one. For Cal and Amanda, I'm Ryan. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back a little later today with race 1 for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS.